morning students, and welcome again to the online classes. In the last video we have started with the chapter His First Flight. Now in that chapter we have read about the young seagull who is afraid to make his first flight. Now in that chapter we have also read that he was not able to trust on his natural abilities. Alright, he thought that his wings are not going to support him. So while his younger sibling was flying fearlessly, he was sitting on the ledge all alone. Now we also came to know that his parents, they scolded him and they told him that you are going to stay on the ledge and starve if you are not going to take that plunge. Then at the end we also saw that he was all alone on the ledge for the past 24 hours. In the previous video we have done till here. Now we are going to continue with the chapter. Now let me read the next paragraph to you, then I will explain it. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing on his ledge that faced the south. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge, and standing on one leg, with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other, and pretended to be falling asleep. Still, they took no notice of him. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. Now students, let's see the word meaning. Now first is ascending the sky. That means the act of rising up through the air. Now the next is dozing. Dozing means napping. Now on the left hand side you can see a picture of a seagull. Now see, like the young seagull, it was standing on one leg, okay, pretending, acting as if it is sleeping. Now let's read the next lines. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. He was standing on a little high hump on the plateau, her white breast thrust forward. Now and again she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. Now again let's take a look at the word meaning. Now first is preening. Preening is to tidy and clean its feather. Okay, so on the left hand side you can see on the top the picture of a seagull cleaning itself. So this is known as preening. Now next word is hump. Hump is a rounded raised mass of earth or land. Okay, for example, the camel has a hump. The same way here on the plateau there was a round raised mass of earth or land. Okay. Then next is scrapped. Scrapped means discard. Alright, to clean. Then next is wet. Wet means to sharpen. Alright, now students, on the left hand side you can see the picture here of the mother seagull, alright, tearing and eating the fish. Now let's move to the explanation. Now I'll explain the third paragraph to you. Alright, here the author says, the sun was now ascending the sky, blazing on his ledge that faced the south. Alright, so what was happening? The sun was rising, and as the sun was rising, what was happening? The day was becoming hotter. Now I want you to underline the next line. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. So now, okay, on the one hand, as the sun was rising, the day was getting hotter. On the other hand, we see that because he had not eaten since the last night, so what was happening? He was feeling the heat. Alright. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge. Okay, so he moved towards the edge of this ledge, and standing on one leg, with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other, and pretended to be falling asleep. Falling asleep means pretended to be falling asleep, acted as if he was falling asleep. So see here, he is very clever. What did he do? He went to the edge of this ledge, and he stood on one of his leg. He hid the other leg under his wings, and he acted as if he was falling asleep. So maybe he was trying to attract his parents' attention, that if the parents are going to see that he is falling asleep on the edge of this ledge, they might think that he is going to fall and they might come to help. So see here, this young seagull, he is very clever. Still, they took no notice of him. They hear his family, especially his parents, but they did not give him any attention. He saw his two brothers and his sister laying on the plateau, dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. Dozing means light asleep. So he saw that his brothers and his sister, they were just dozing on the plateau. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. And what was his father doing? He was cleaning his feathers. Only his mother was looking at him. So see here, we see the mother's love. Alright, brothers and sister were sleeping, father was cleaning himself, but the mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau, her white breast thrust forward. Now and again, she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. Alright, so she was standing on a hump, alright, on the plateau, and she was looking at this young seagull. And what was there? There was one fish at her feet, and sometimes what did she do? She used to tear this fish, and then she used to scrape. She used to clean her beak or sharpen her beak on a rock. And all she was doing this while looking at this young seagull. The sight of the food maddened him. Maddened whom? The young seagull. He was hungry, he was starving. So when he saw that fish at his mother's feet, he was maddened with hunger. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now again to wet it. To wet it means to sharpen it. So he was so hungry that he was just thinking how he's going to tear that fish and how he's going to clean and sharpen his beak. Okay, let's first read the paragraph. Ga ga ga, he cried, begging her to bring him some food. Gakosh, she screamed back derisively. But he kept calling plaintively, and after a minute or so he uttered a joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of the fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. But when she was just opposite to him, she halted, her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within reach of his beak. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. Now let's quickly underline the words and write their meaning. First word is derisively. It means in a manner expressing contempt or ridicule. Alright. Then next is plaintively. Plaintively means sad. Then the next word is uttered. Uttered means to make a sound that with one's voice. Next is halted. Halted means stopped. Okay, and on the right hand side you can see the mother seagull holding a fish in its beak and flying towards the young seagull. Now, with a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into space. Then a monstrous terror seized him, and his heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a minute. The next moment he felt his wings spread outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach, and against his wings. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring gradually downwards and outwards. He was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Then he flapped his wings once and he soared upward. Ga ga, ga ga, ga ga, gosh. His mother swooped past him, her wings making a loud noise. He answered her with another scream. Then his father flew over him screaming. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, curveting and banking and soaring and diving. Now let's quickly look at the meaning here. First of all, monstrous. Monstrous means horrible. The next underline, seized. Seized means grabbed. Then headlong. Headlong means with the head foremost. Alright. Then next is soaring. Soaring means flying or rising high in the air. Then next is swooped. Swooped, especially of a bird, move rapidly downwards through the air. Next is curveting. Curveting means perform a series of jumps on the hind legs. Okay, now I hope you have underlined these. Then next comes, if you see on the top here, you can see the young seagull flying with its family. Let's start with the explanation of the next paragraph. Ga ga ga, he cried, begging her to bring him some food. Okay, so this young seagull, he was begging and he was shouting. He was begging his mother to just bring some food to him. Gokoich, she screamed back derisively. Now derisively means mockingly. Very rudely she screamed at him. But he kept calling plaintively, sadly. But what did the child do? This young seagull, this young seagull kept on crying, asking for food. But she was very rude to him. And after a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. Okay, he kept on begging, and then suddenly what did he do? He started screaming joyfully, happily. Why? His mother had picked up a piece of the fish and was flying across to him with it. So he saw that his mother was now bringing that fish to him. He leaned out. He leaned out means he bent out. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet. So he was excited, so he was tapping the rock with his feet in excitement, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. He was trying to get nearer to her. Why was he doing that? Because he was so hungry that he wanted the food as soon as possible. So he also bent out and he was tapping his feet, trying to come nearer to his mother. But when she was just opposite to him, she halted. But what happened? As soon as the mother came opposite to the young seagull, she stopped. Halted means stopped. So she stopped, her wings motionless. The piece of fish in her beak almost within reach of his beak. So what did the mother do? She did not come and give the food to the child, okay, to the young seagull. She came opposite to him, alright, but she stood there, alright. The food was close to him, but he could not till now catch hold of this food. So what was she doing? She was trying to tempt the young seagull. She knew that he was hungry, so she was tempting the young seagull and in a way motivating the young seagull to take the food from him. And if he is going to take the food from him, he'll need to fly. He waited a moment in surprise. So he was surprised. Why did my mother stop? She's so close to me. Why isn't she coming and giving me the food? Wondering why she did not come nearer. And then maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. So you see here the mother's love, alright. What did she do? She came opposite to him and she waited, alright, and she tempted the young seagull that if you want the food, then jump, dive and take the food from me. So after some time, what happened? He was so much hungry, he was starving, that he jumped and he plunged and he dived for the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outward and downwards into space. So when he jumped, what did he do? He fell into space. He was falling down. Then a monstrous terror seized him. Okay, seized him here means took over him. And his heart stood still. What was this monstrous terror? This was the fear of falling down. The fear that his wings are not going to support him. Alright, that monstrous terror, it took over him and almost his heart stood still. He could hear nothing. But it only lasted a minute. The next moment, he felt his wings spread outward. So just underline this line. The next moment, he felt his wings spread outward. So this is the natural instinct of the young seagull. Okay, the young seagull was a bird. It was his natural instinct to fly. If he would have dived, alright, the nature would have taken control and he would have learnt to fly. Okay, so here when he was diving at that at the fish, he fell, and then what happened? Naturally his wings opened up and then he started flying. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach and against his wings. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. Okay, what does this mean? That he has now started flying. His wings were cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. Okay, so he was not falling down now. He was soaring gradually downwards and outward. Soaring here means he was gliding gradually. He was no longer afraid. Okay, so all that fear, once he jumped, alright, for a moment there that fear came to him that now he is going to fall. Alright, but then what happened? His natural instincts took over and he started flying, and after that he was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Dizzy means when you are uncomfortable, when you are feeling, imbalanced. That is dizzy. Then he flapped his wings once and he soared upward. Ga 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 gawach. His mother swooped past him. Swooped, underline swooped. Here, swooped means dived past him. She was very happy and she just dived past him, her wings making a loud noise. He answered her with another scream. So now everyone is happy here. Then his father flew over him, screaming. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, converting and banking and soaring and diving. Alright, now here converting is leaping. Alright, so his brothers, his sister, his father, his mother, all are screaming with joy, and all have started coming and diving next to him. Now let's read the next lines. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly, and commended himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him, with little ridges moving over it, and turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green flooring ahead of him. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. Now students, let's underline the word shrieking. Shrieking means making a high-pitched piercing cry or sound. Then shrilly. Shrilly means loudly and forcefully. Then next is ridges. Ridges is a long, narrow hilltop or a mountain range or watershed. If you can see in the picture, if this is a sea, alright, this the land in between these will be the ridges. Alright, then next is chord. Chord means to utter a harsh cry. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise, exhausted by the strange exercise. His feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no farther. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. Let's start with the next paragraph. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly, and commended himself, praised himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. Alright, at that moment, once he's learned how to dive, once his natural instincts all came up, so what did he do? He even forgot that once he was afraid of flying. He was just praising himself that how nicely he was flying. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it. Okay, now he was flying over the sea, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him. Alright, so the color of the sea was green and it was under him, with little ridges moving over it, and he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. Cawed means making a harsh cry. Alright. Now he was also screaming and he was also shouting, and why was he doing it? Because he was praising himself, alright, that he has started flying. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green flooring ahead of him. Green flooring, the sea, the green sea. They were beckoning to him. Beckoning means calling. They were calling him, calling shrilly. They were calling him loudly and calling him to come and be a part of the family. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. Alright. See, his brothers and sister, they have already dived, they have already done all these things, but this young seagull is doing it for the first time. So what did he do? When they called him, when they beckoned him, he just landed and he tried to stand on the green sea. What happens if you are going to stand on the sea? Obviously you are going to go down, you are going to drown. Now what happened? His legs sank into it. Obviously, what happened? His legs, it sank into the water. He screamed with fright. Again, he was afraid because he was doing it for the first time. So he was screaming with fear. Fright means fear. And attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. So as he was sinking, he tried to flap his wing and tried to fly from there. But he was tired. Why was he tired? One thing was that he was hungry and weak with hunger, and he could not rise. Alright? Exhausted. Exhausted means tired by the strange exercise. Which strange exercise? The diving and flying. Okay, so he was, on the one hand, he was tired of hunger, and on the other hand, he was flying and diving. So he was tired and exhausted because of it. His feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no farther. Okay. So what happened? So as his feet sank, after some time his belly, it touched the sea, and after that he did not sink. Obviously, again nature has taken its role, and now he is not sinking. So when we win over our fear, what happened? the natural abilities that we have. Okay, it comes out. All right, we might be afraid of taking part in a race. All right, but suppose if we have that natural instinct, if we have that natural ability, if we have that quality, okay, if you are going to run, all right, obviously your natural ability is going to take over it. If you're good at writing, okay, you might be afraid, but if once you start writing, your natural instinct, your natural ability, your quality is going to take over it. So the main thing we have to remember that we might be afraid of trying, but once we should try, because we don't know whether it's our natural ability. If it is there, it is going to take over and it is going to win over our fear. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dog fish. So the parents who had scolded him and told him that he is going to starve on the ledge, now what were they doing? They were praising him, they were screaming, and they were offering him fish as a reward. He had made his first flight. So this was the day that he made his first flight, and he overcame all his fear. So remember, students, that if you feel afraid, okay, if you are afraid of trying something new, just give it a try. All right, you might find out that it is your natural ability, it is your natural quality. Okay, and we can every day we can improve on our qualities on ourselves. So let's give ourselves some time so that we can improve. All right, with this we come to the end of this chapter. I hope you have understood this, and I hope you are doing the work, the assignment that I have given you. Okay, so until we meet the next time, stay safe, stay at home, and be healthy and be happy, and try to find out your natural ability, and never ever be afraid of trying something new. Thank you, students.